If you can take your seat. Evening. Welcome to Cranston City Council's regularly scheduled July monthly meeting. Today is Monday, July 22nd. At this time, and ask the clerk to please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Present.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Present.
Councilwoman Haroyan,
Present.
Councilman Donegan,
Present.
Councilman Campopiano,
Present.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Present.
Councilman Wall,
Here.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Present.
Council President Marino.
Present. At this time, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We have the approval of minutes. We have the approval of the minutes of the June 2024 regular council meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Haroyan, Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we have approval of the sealed minutes of the June 24 meeting, executive session. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Haroyan, Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Abstain.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Okay. Moving on to public hearings and public comment. At this time, we will take public comment on any docketed matters. Please keep your comments limited to 4 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. We will start in chambers and then we will go on Zoom. Just as a reminder, again, these are for docketed matters only. Is there any public comment in chambers?
Good evening. My name is Tom Wodrick, 11 Paul Place, Cranston. What was that movie thing where the kept popping up and it was like deja vu all over again? I felt like I was here just not too long ago with the ordinance to try to prevent people from panhandling. It seems like we're right back where we started. And I can't say how disturbing 72403 ordinance is to me. It made me think of Langston Hughes, great American poet. In 1935, he wrote, "Let America be America again." I want to read a stanza from that poem. "I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scar. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek. I am the homeless with nowhere or place to turn. I inserted that. And finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush food. This is how I see this ordinance." I also thought about a recent book by the author Adam Serwer. He wrote a book of essays. It is called, "The Cruelty is the Point." Adam wrote a book of searing essays that made the powerful case that real hope lies not in a stunning nostalgia for American greatness, but in seeing its history clearly and plain in all of its unadorned brutality. And this ordinance is brutal. We are not Americans if we can't treat each other respectfully. You don't find yourself sleeping on the road or in a park because you like it. You do it because circumstances in your life. It could happen to me. It could happen to all of us. Why, when we have these situations, do we run and create an ordinance? No panhandling. Can't park on the street. Who does that affect? The people who can't have housing. You can't have a swimming pool. Who does that affect? The people that were trying to live in that dilapidated hotel. We wouldn't stand up for them. We only stand up for, as I remember when Alan Fung was here, business is what this city's about. It's not about its people, and I'm tired about it. Let's make this about people, about humanness, about kindness. There are things that we can do that are logical and save people and not punish them. Proven results, not just an ordinance to move them along and try to hide them someplace else. That is not human. That's disgusting. Thank you.
My name is Debbie Flitman, and I live at 400 Situate Avenue, Cranston. And I want to thank everybody for their attention. I'm a little bit upset that the person who proposed the legislation, Council President Jessica Marino, has been multitasking and not giving proper eye contact.
Excuse me, I did not propose this
Oh, I
ordinance.
beg your pardon.
I have nothing to do with it.
Okay, sorry. Then I
And I'm
stand corrected.
conducting business.
Okay, I thought.
I do
that
not
because-
appreciate the disparagement.
Okay, and I apologize with all due respect. I'm not a lawyer either, and it said your name on it until I assumed that you had proposed it. Please don't look disgusted. I don't know politics.
It's state sponsored by Mayor Hopkins.
I beg your pardon again and again and again. So it's been a long time since I've been up here to City Hall to testify against anything, and I do believe too, it probably was the panhandling bill. We've been here before. Tonight I heard about this proposed ordinance at 6 o'clock, and I changed my plans to come out and testify against this immoral, uncompassionate, inhumane plan to make the homelessness criminal by removing people. Yes, they are people, their tents and their property. May I also remind you that many of these people are your constituents. They vote. I do remember a few years ago when the previous mayor tried to criminalize panhandling. Do you remember this, anybody? Do you remember how that worked out? It worked out that you, the city council, cannot violate your constituents' civil rights. And today you are trying to do it again. The last I knew, the right to adequate housing is a human right. Not a luxury, it's a right. Most people who are unhoused and experiencing homelessness struggle with mental illness and are unable to work. Not sure how the mayor can put his head on his pillow each night. How the mayor could teach this kind of hate to his children, to his grandchildren, I don't know. Ironically, this proposed ordinance titled Peace, Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare Offenses Against Public Peace and Decency. For what it's worth, public peace is not victimizing the victim. Morals? Whose morals? Not mine. Now, are you the morality police, Mayor Hopkins? Welfare. Whose welfare are you talking about here? By criminalizing homelessness, you are not supporting the well-being or welfare of our neighbors who may or who may not have a brick and mortar roof over their head. Offenses against public peace and decency. By supporting this ordinance, you are not representing peace nor decency. The way to resolve homelessness is not to criminalize it. The way to resolve homeless is to provide safe shelter, health care, and offer people help. This is not new. This is data driven. That's how that works. House the people first. Did this ordinance pass in the ordinance committee? It did not. So what is it doing here tonight? I urge you all not to support this ordinance, not to potentially take my tax dollars and have another lawsuit, and to leave the people alone unless you decide that you want to be compassionate and help them. Thank you for your time.
I don't know what to say. My name is Gail Johnson. I do work in the city of Cranston, and I work with some of your most vulnerable people getting out of hospitals, people who are elderly, who require care and compassion. Now, what if we decided that these people couldn't stay in their home because they couldn't take care of themselves, and someone made an ordinance and said, well, you have to go to a nursing home? Okay, yeah. So what if we enabled an ordinance that said that these people were incapable of taking care of them? Okay, whoops. Okay, I'll try to breathe. I'll start over again. My name is Gail Johnson. I'm a nurse, BSN, and I work in the city of Cranston, and I work with some of your most vulnerable people, elderly folks and people who need care. And they need care because they're vulnerable and they have comorbidities like congestive heart failure, diabetes, and things that they need care for. All right. And many of them struggle with care because we don't provide enough services to them. So what if all of a sudden the Supreme Court said, well, these people can't care for themselves, so cities and towns have the right to place them in nursing homes? Does that make it right? I don't know. The Supreme Court also ruled that segregation was separate but equal, but it was right, and we had segregation. We can't go by fly of the night things. I think that this ordinance, you have the right to enact it. Is it the right thing to do? We really need to look at the moral and ethical thing. I'm also a former homeless person, and I lived underneath the bridge. And many of us went on to do great things because we received the help that we needed, because somebody took an interest in us and somebody cared to do the right thing. You know, we need to lift people up, not bring them down. So what I'm asking you to do today is table this. Put it back into the committee where it came from and work with your housing people, work with your providers, work with your nurses, work with people who are out there in the field who really know what's happening. Because that's what's going to cure this. And this is unsightly. And I admit that it's fear. We have a lot of fear and we see unsightly things and we say, my God, those people shouldn't be there. And they shouldn't be there, but they're there because we're in a housing crisis. If you call for a bed, a shelter bed, there are 600 people ahead of you. 600 people. Can you imagine calling? That's almost like months and months of waiting. So there is no place for these people to go. And think about housing. I can't even afford an apartment. It's $2,000 or $1,800 for a 1-bedroom apartment. Plus you have to make a car payment. You have to do all this stuff. I live in a blended family. I live with my mother, who's 86 years old, my son, his girlfriend, and 2 children, because we cannot afford not to live together. And we are pricing people out. And the way we are doing it is the cost of housing. And the least of our people are the people who are sleeping out, camping out in the tents. They can't even afford the housing. And we have people who can't even afford to buy a home. We have people who can't afford rent. So I'm asking you to table this. Work with people, lift people up, don't push them down. And what about the police who have to enforce these rules? What are we telling them? And I can tell you that when you were living outside, policemen used to bring us water and they used to bring us pizza or food and try to help us to get out of the situation. Instead, we're telling them, well, hey, you need to ticket these people because they're unsightly, they're ungainly, they don't look right. And that's what this is all about. This is about how we feel about how these people look. We have fear. And fear should not motivate ordinance or law in this country, but it does. It does. And should we lead into that fear? No. And I think if you went out and talked to some of these people, that they're very intelligent people and they just need a place where they can do the right thing, opportunities to do the right thing. And we need to create that space. If we don't create it, then we're less of a society. And we need to look at, you took a pledge here to be, government. And government means, how do we treat the least of our citizens? Do we treat them well, or do we push them down? So that's what I have to say on it. Whether you do this or not, it's up to you, but it's morally wrong. I think it's morally wrong, and you need to lift people up, not put them down. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Susan Blake. I live at 173 Grand Avenue. I'd like to thank you all for your time here tonight and for allowing me a few minutes to speak to you about three things. I had planned on speaking about the collective anger and frustration with the systemic destruction of the Budlong Pool, a nationally recognized historic site, for no other reason than to replace it with something shiny that the mayor could call his own. Well, what he stole was ours. And he did it with lies. The mayor planned Budlong Pool's demise from day one. He lied over and over again through Mr. Moretti on status, timeline, etc., for reopening the pool. He never forget those lies. They speak louder than any rose at the bottom of a statement or a letter. However, the introduction of Ordinance 7.24.03 under new business tonight is a new low even for this mayor. This anti-homelessness ordinance wants to allow police to fine and for the DPW to destroy the only belongings of any individuals who set up shelter on city-owned property. This is an inhumane penalty on those among us who have the least. Tell me this. What has the mayor done in the last 43 months to eliminate homelessness, to create shelter beds, or even affordable housing? Nothing. The strategy for homelessness in the second largest city in the state has historically been go somewhere else. It's a pathetic attempt at making it seem like he's making the community safer because he has no real accomplishments to show on this. This is a human issue and it should not be made into a regulatory one. And I urge you to listen to that little voice in your heart that's telling you that this is not right. And please don't allow this ordinance to step forward and take effect. Lastly, I would like to ask you for your full support on Councilman Donegan's resolution tonight on lead safety compliance. Your cooperation and assistance in sourcing grant and outside funding to help enable lead compliance with new, will help enable lead safety compliance with the laws is essential. I'm sorry, I got that all mixed up, but I'll skip ahead. Grant money and outside funding has been successful in other communities. It has enabled one city to hire an additional full-time inspector for lead compliance. We must follow the laws despite the repeated underfunding and subsequently understaffing of the city inspector's office. This will help make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Alan Reyes and I live at 10 Chestnut Avenue. I stand here as a community organizer from the Childhood Lead Action Project. And I would like to extend my full support to Councilman Donegan's resolution on lead safety and to strongly encourage your support as well. Lead paint was banned in 1978. 1978. This is 2024, and yet our organization is sadly still around. The goal of our organization is to work to eradicate lead and to work ourselves out of business. And so far, we have been unable to do that. We're asking the city for your full support in implementing the lead safety ordinance that Councilman Donegan and in the council helped pass. In May, the city stood here and said that they had not enough funding to implement Councilman Donegan's ordinance. So the resolution is asking for grant support and for your full support in seeking grants and different outside monies. The city of Central Falls receives money from the Rhode Island Foundation, from Rhode Island Housing, and from the EPA, from HUD. Woonsocket, Providence, they have similar programs that can work here in the city. The only thing that is needed is a little bit of political will and your support. This is about children and keeping children safe. It shouldn't be a political issue. It should just be about keeping our community safe. So I strongly urge you to support Councilman Donegan's resolution and to help us apply for some grant funding. There's a lot of money that is being left on the table that could be used by the city to remediate homes. And then I know that there are a lot of homeowners that would love to have access to a lot of programs that could fix their homes. Both renters and homeowners would benefit from this. Thank you so much, and I urge for your support.
Hello, my name is Janice Cataldo. I've spoken before this council many times, so I'll try to keep it under a minute. And I feel bad being after all these passionate speakers. 3 years ago, the council denied this zone change for Sage Drive because it would negatively affect neighboring residents and property owners and impact critical resources of the surrounding area and further straining city services. We need to understand what has changed beside the developer's litigation. The school overcrowding may require the city to build a new school costing millions. Having more families in Western Cranston negatively impact the tech space. Removing trees causes flooding, and traffic is so bad, there's a plan to put in a new traffic light. All the same issues we faced 3 years ago when the council denied this zone change. But it wasn't political then. Is this council so afraid of the developer, you're willing to dismiss the negative cost to the city and ready to ignore how he left tree stumps and a chain link fence on his property, and just to punish the neighbors, as well as twice threaten the council with building a mosque, a pig farm, and ruining his own property? Members of this council may be willing to overlook the developer's bullying. In addition, they may ignore their constituents in the careful outlining of facts showing this is not good for the city and it will impact other neighborhood properties. I've seen members of this council face very difficult choices in the past. Where is that courage now? Thank you very much for your time.
There being no one else in chambers that wishes to be heard on docketed matters, Tom, is there anyone on Zoom?
Jess Salter. You're on the meeting.
Hi. Jess Salter, 6 Vaughn Lane. I would like to speak on behalf of myself as a Cranston resident and as someone who works at one of the state's largest agencies addressing homelessness in Rhode Island, that this ordinance is so far from the way to address homelessness. And we as a city cannot be a part of criminalizing homelessness. Homelessness in the state of Rhode Island has increased almost 400% in the last handful of years. We are seeing record numbers of families specifically who are homeless, who are living in places not meant for human habitation. And I know that you realize this, and I know that's probably the crux of where this ordinance comes from. And there are many ways to make life better for people in the state of Rhode Island and in the city of Cranston. And this is not one of them. This is an area where we need to respond with compassion. We need to respond with strategy and a real plan for how to address housing problems in the state of Rhode Island. And this isn't it. If we want to address the real issue, let's talk about rent control. Let's talk about increasing shelter beds. Let's talk about a place where people can go. But to just have a plan to remove people and to remove their belongings is cruel and inhumane. We are at a record high of homelessness in this state, and we are at a record low of shelter beds, where there's such a gap for the amount of space that we have to provide healthy, safe shelter for individuals and families, many of whom are dealing with extraordinarily extenuating circumstances, including mental health struggles, physical health struggles, large multi-generational families, so many things that have complicated their individual lives and forced this situation upon them. No one's choosing this. There's got to be a better way for us to respond as a city than this. And I hope and pray that we do not fall into the list of cities in the state of Rhode Island that chooses to respond in such a cruel and mean-spirited way to our fellow citizens who are struggling and at their very most vulnerable time. So I hope that this dies here tonight. If it needs to go back to committee and be revisited, so be it. But I hope that everyone responds to this by being completely disgusted. And I hope that we will see it go away and for everyone to respond in a much more compassionate way. Thank you.
Jonas Susie. You're in the meeting.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I usually come to these in person. Unfortunately, was unable to make it, so I will be brief. Speaking again about the rezoning of Sage Drive. Sorry, for the record, Joe Narcissi, 22 Caraway Drive. So in the past, this council has ruled against the rezoning. Recently, some have changed their tune, even though the circumstances haven't changed, and the mayor has seen fit to veto that. We are asking that you uphold that veto. The point I just want to quickly make is this, along with any other decision that you make, I hope that you ask yourselves, how does this benefit the city? If you can't come up with an immediate answer, if you have to fabricate, a political spin on it, it doesn't benefit the city. This rezoning would not benefit the city. The cost, the burden on the resources, we would need new infrastructure, facilities like a school, and more employees for that just the burden is much more than the city is prepared to bear right now. I would ask that you look into those school numbers more. I know that Orchard Farms is at its max, and we've gotten some, kind of fuzzy math that wasn't really calculated appropriately. But to come back and say that a school that's maxed out at capacity now all of a sudden can have 30% more students. I know there's at least one teacher on the council. If they were to come to you and say, we're going to increase your classroom by 30% more students, that would be a problem. That would negatively impact them. Also, with the talk of, redistricting, rezoning kids to different schools, haven't our grade school kids been through enough with COVID? We've seen the effects that's had on their social development. Imagine telling a 7-year-old, hey, we know you made some connections and some friends, but guess what? Next year you're going somewhere else. Let's not take it out on the 5 to 10-year-old population. This isn't right for the city right now. It may be down the line, but right now it is not with the resources we have. And I just once again ask that as you make these decisions, please ask yourself, how does this benefit the city? Because this rezoning certainly does not. Thank you.
Drake Patton.
Good evening, Drake Patton, 684 Natick Avenue. I'm struck that there is a certain irony that we have Sage Drive fighting against housing and people fighting to protect the unhoused. In 1754, when Cranston was incorporated, leaving Providence to create the community we are now, the first town council dealt with a variety of things, including what to do with people then deemed indigent, what to do with people that didn't have homes. It was the charge of the council to decide what to do. There was a respect for that decision, for that honor. And while I realize this is not the council's ordinance, and thank you for it not being your ordinance, I am disgusted that it is the mayor's ordinance. And I echo Jess Salter's comments. We are our brothers and sisters' keepers. And to imagine that this cannot happen to us, to any of us, is foolish. So this should not even go to committee because this is disgusting. And it is below the qualities that we believe here in Cranston are about being good neighbors to each other. So please do not criminalize people who are unhoused. It's simply wrong. Thank you.
Count name Gilmore's.
Hi there, this is Trisha Gilmore. I live at 4 Peppermint Lane in Cranston. I'm here with my husband, Michael. We'd just like to, again, restate our opposition to the rezoning of Sage Drive. And just in response to that previous caller, I can assure them that when Mr. Casali builds these houses, it won't be to aid any of the homeless population. So while I respect the matter of the homeless bill that's been put before you and the comments of the people that are very thought out, the people of Western Cranston would also appreciate that people speak on the matter with knowledge and not just randomly, because this is important to us. So Mr. Casali keeps referring to the need to approve this based on the court order, and hopefully everyone understands that that's not the case. This just doesn't impact Cranston in a positive way at all. We know it will have a ripple effect. We know that there's other developers that are waiting for this precedent to be set. This is something where he would just like to be profitable. And if not, he's made it clear that if he cannot be highly profitable, he's going to make it a farm. How do we reward this? You know, this consent order specifically does not state that the only option here is to approve it. The consent order's intent was for him to have his matter reheard, which he has had. So to feel the need to approve it based on this, it goes against it. So we just hope that the power struggles amongst political parties aren't going to become a role in this, because this goes far beyond just schools. It goes beyond traffic. It goes beyond topography. It goes beyond flooding. There's a large number of things that should be considered. So we trust that this committee will do the right thing and hopefully vote in alignment with the constituents to which this very greatly matters. So thank you for your time.
I'm saying no additional new public comment.
All right, public comment on docketed matters is now closed. Next on the agenda this evening are resolutions. First up, we have a resolution sponsored by Councilman Campiano and Councilwoman Haroyan. Do I have a motion
Motion to approve.
Second.
and discussion? Councilman Campiano.
Thank you, Madam President. I was hoping there was so much seriousness tonight, bring a little lightheartedness to the meeting, and hopefully everybody else will agree with me. I was very fortunate growing up. I had two very loving parents, and I also had many aunts and uncles that played an important role in my childhood. My uncles taught me how to fish, how to go mushrooming, how to have a sense of humor, and my Uncle Frank taught me how to be a Yankee fan. So I'm very grateful for my Uncle Frank. My aunts, I adored them and they adored me. I was the first child in my family, so being the first one, I had to teach my aunts as a baby to be a mother. So I had an important role to them too. All my aunts and uncles played a very important part of who I am today. There are not many people, there's some people that aren't as fortunate as I am, and they don't have the loving parents or the family system. It's the aunts and uncles that step up in these roles and become the parents. So that's another important role for being an aunt or an uncle. Now, Deb and I enjoy being an aunt and an uncle, and hopefully we instill the values that our aunts and uncles gave us. So I see Auntie Chrissy over there that helped me sponsor this. So hopefully, with all that said, recognizing that July 26th is National Aunt and Uncle Day, hopefully we can recognize it here in the city of Cranston, and everybody will agree with me. And on July 26th, text, call, take out to breakfast that special person in your life. and tell them what they meant to you. So hopefully I have all your support. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
I would,
Councilman Ferry?
I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Go ahead. Sir.
And that's the most that Councilman Campopiano has spoken ever on any issue.
Councilman Paplaskas?
I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor as well.
Councilman Donegan? Councilman Wall? Councilwoman Mazzulli?
I would also like to be added, but I would like to say that I don't think that Councilwoman Horian is going to speak, but I can attest to the love that she has for her nieces and nephews, and she is a good friend and colleague of one of my aunts, and I can say my aunts and uncles. They, as Councilman Campopiano said, act as extra role models and adults in our lives as children, and I'm very grateful to have mine, and I'm very grateful to be an aunt as well. Thank you.
Council Vice President Vargas? Okay. All right. And anyone else wish to be heard? Okay, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horian,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we have reports out of committee. Councilman Wall, the Claims Committee, the meeting was canceled and will be proceeding in August, so there's nothing to report. Is that correct? Thank you. And then next, we have Councilman Ferry reporting out of Safety Services and Licenses Committee as the chair. Councilman Ferry.
Madam President, we have two items on the agenda in reference to safety services and licenses. The first is Class BV liquor license for Knightsville LLC DBA Inocelli 2, located at 1785 Cranston Street. This was approved in subject to getting the letter of good standing from the Rhode Island Department of Health, and we do have that letter. It did arrive. So that's make a note, everyone. So I would recommend that we approve this tonight. It was approved in committee.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horian,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Okay, the second item is a Class BV liquor license new for Mexico City Tacos and Tequila LLC, doing business as Mexico City Tacos and Tequila, located at 1177 Reservoir Avenue. And again, this letter of good standing has been received by the clerk's office. This was approved in committee. I would suggest that it gets approved tonight.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horian,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Thank you, Councilman Ferry. Next, we have Finance Committee, Councilman Donegan reporting out as chair.
Thank you, Council President. First, before us, we have a resolution authorizing real estate tax abatements as recommended by the tax assessor and approved by the Finance Committee. The exception being number 46, the location of 665 Situate Avenue. So I would urge approval of all with the exception of number 46.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horian,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next, we have a resolution authorizing tangible tax abatements as recommended by the tax assessor and approved by the committee on July 1st. I would urge passage.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horian,
Yes.
Council, excuse me, Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next, we have a consideration of tax interest waiver approvals for the month of June 2024, as recommended by the city treasurer. This was approved in committee and I would urge passage.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan, Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Lastly is 62402, ordinance ratifying the memorandum of agreement with IBPO, International Brotherhood of Police Officers, Local Union 301, July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2026. This was sponsored by Mayor Hopkins. It's approved by Finance Committee on July 1st. I would urge passage.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, before we take the roll, I just want to clarify, coming out of committee, we address this fully in committee and we appreciate the discussion, both from the representation from the IBPO and from the administration relative to the changes, and that also from the finance director relative to this being incorporated already into the budget. At this time, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Thank you, Councilman Donegan. Next this evening, we have reporting of Public Works and Ordinance from Council Vice President Vargas, but that meeting was continued, was canceled and will be held in August. So there's nothing to report out. Moving on to public comment for undocketed items. If there's anyone in chambers or on Zoom who wishes to be heard on any undocketed matter, then please state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments limited to 4 minutes. Is there anyone in chambers that wishes to be heard on any undocketed matters at this time? There being no one in chambers, Tom, is there anyone on Zoom?
There is no public comment.
Thank you. Next this evening, we have election appointment of city officials. We have the appointment of Lisa Kirschenbaum to the Public Library Board of Trustees for the term August 1 of this year through July 31, 2027, as requested by Michael Goldberg, the chairperson of the Library Board of Trustees. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? I want to thank Ms. Kirschenbaum for volunteering, and we very much appreciate the libraries as a whole, and we definitely appreciate the volunteer services of the board members. At this time, clerk, please take a roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we have the reappointment of Ivy Swinsky to the Zoning Board of Review for the term of July 28th of this year through July 28th of 2029. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, I just want to thank Ms. Swinsky for her volunteerism and continuing service on the zoning board. At this time, Madam Clerk, if you please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan, Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, moving on to executive communications, we have consideration of the override of the mayoral veto of ordinance 4-24-01, an amendment of chapter 17 of the code of the city of Cranston entitled zoning, change of zone, 0 Sage Drive. Does the administration wish to be heard before we take up any motions?
As you know, the mayor has vetoed the ordinance that was passed by the council. I'll just for the public purposes, read the rationale for it in the letter dated June 25th to the city council. That this is a letter from the mayor to the council pursuant to the Cranston City Charter, section 3.14. I hereby exercise my authority to disapprove ordinance number 2401, an amendment of chapter 17 of the Code of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Zoning, Change in Zoning, Zero Sage Drive. As I stated on May 14th, 2024, in my letter to the ordinance chair, Lamas Vargas, I have ongoing concerns as to whether the rezoning of the Stage Drive parcel meets the general purposes of zoning ordinances found in Rhode Island General Laws 45, 24, 30. Among the purposes that remain unsatisfied to me are whether the zone changes, quote, providing for orderly growth and development that recognizes A3V, the availability, I'll slow down, just dawned on me, the A3V, the availability and capacity of existing and planned public and or private services and facilities. A7, providing for protection of public investment in transportation, water, stormwater management systems, sewage treatment and disposal, solid waste treatment and disposal, schools, recreation, public facilities, open space, and other requirements. Accordingly, I have exercised my right to veto this ordinance. Very truly yours.
Thank you, Director Moretti. Do I have a motion at this time?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I'm sorry. Motion to override the veto.
Second.
Any discussion from council members? Councilman Donegan.
Thank you, Council President. I'll just say, without obviously divulging what legal told us in executive session, I'll just say, as we've seen in public many times, council attorney and city solicitors don't always agree. When they do, it's probably a good idea that we listen. So that's how I'm going to vote.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes, just simply put, what I've learned about housing in the last 3.5 years and the advice and the things that I learned in the executive sessions convinced me that we need to override this veto.
Councilwoman Zuli.
Thank you, Madam President. I will say that I will have said the same thing for the last, 3 years that we have been talking about this. I do not believe we have legal reason to change this zoning. I know that there is disagreement upon this, but I'm staying consistent with my opinion. I'm not satisfied with the answer as far as the schooling. So I do also question the availability and capacity of existing and planned public or private services and facilities. If I got better answer about the schools last time I asked, then maybe I would have a different opinion, but I did not. So we represent people across the city. I do not think it is completely relevant saying the housing crisis and this are two separate things, because one, as someone mentioned, the people who need housing are not buying homes in Alpine Estates. I can guarantee that, number one. Number two, the amount of money we are going to have to spend to build a new school in that area of the city is going to take away from any money we can put towards affordable housing or the people who need our help. So with that, I will not be voting to overturn this veto. Thank you.
Last call. Do any other council members wish to be heard? Campo Piano.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. Can we hear from legal? I know we heard this thing, it's been going back and forth for years now. Is this final? I don't know if legal can answer that question. If we uphold the veto, is it done, or does it go back to court and come back here?
I'm not certain what you mean by final. If you're saying if the mayor's veto stands, then the effect of that is that the ordinance is denied, essentially. At that point, and I can't speak for the applicant's attorneys, they would be able to file an appeal of that denial, and the case would go to court.
Happened the first time, so it can happen again.
Yes,
If it goes the other way, can it come back again? If it doesn't, if the veto is overturned,
if the veto is overridden,
Yeah.
the ordinance simply takes effect, the zone change takes effect. There's no further proceeding.
Do any other council members wish to be heard? Right. I will reiterate what I stated when we discussed this at the previous meetings, that this is something that I have weighed heavily. I've had no skin in the game. And we are talking about a situation where, again, we cannot divulge what was stated in executive session. What we can say is that there was agreement between the solicitors and the legal counsel to the city council. Based on that, along with trying to find out what the current factual situation was in terms of the capacity of the schools in question, it was revealed to us that those schools are not at capacity. In addition to that, the school department conveyed that they have to adapt, which, as I stated before, some of us who have had our children in the public schools and for many years have experienced times where the lines have been changed and those things have occurred. No one likes it when that happens, but that's part of evolving as a city to accommodate the growth, especially in a time where housing is of need. There's been much debate about the impact of this on housing. I don't think anyone in this room is thinking that someone who is currently unhoused, living in an encampment, is now all of a sudden going to move into a home in Alpine. But what is up for debate is that it does open up housing. If someone who has, let's say, a median priced house and they are able to afford a house that maybe is more, then that opens up housing. But again, that's all up for debate. A couple of other things I wanted to reiterate, as there's been discussion as well about the domino effect of this. I know at my time on council in the last 3.5 years, every ordinance, everything that comes before us is individual. There is no domino effect. There is no one size fits all. It is all specific to each situation. And I would respect that each council member, I think, would afford it that same weight. And I think most prior councils have done the same. This specific location, we're talking about an increase of potentially 8 to 12 homes. We are not talking a mass conglomerate of overcrowding that's going to occur. There was expression which I know I'm very sensitive to as well about the flooding and the water impact. DEM has regulations relative to the permitting process, the restrictions, and they need to do their due diligence. And the residents that in that area will have access to that permitting information as well. And I say that from someone as a constituent who has been involved in those types of inquiries. Again, not an easy decision, but I do think that given the situation, all the factors that I know for myself, I will stand by the vote that I previously made when this came before us, and I will be in support of overriding the mayoral veto this evening. Clerk, if you may, please take the roll. Thank you.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
No.
Councilwoman Horoyan, Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
No.
Councilman Paplaskas,
No.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-3.
Motion doesn't carry. Excuse me. Motion fails. Veto override requires 2/3 vote. And without Councilwoman Haroyan, that doesn't constitute a 2/3 majority, therefore the veto override fails.
Moving on, we have the legal expense analysis. There was no report received from the legal department this month. So there's nothing to present or discuss at this time. Next, we have from Planning Director Pizzulo, a status report on the comprehensive plan. He did reach out to the clerk, and I assume the administration. The email came, I believe, on Thursday or Friday. I think it was, may have been Friday, if I'm not mistaken. And Director Moretti, I know he said that he could not be in attendance this evening, but he did give an update via email. Did that go to all the council members? Does the clerk, Tracy, do you know if the email went to all council members?
I believe after the original email that was addressed to you, me, and the administration, he did follow up with a subsequent email to at least most of the council, if not all.
Okay. And what he revealed in that email to us is that as it currently stands, the following elements have been submitted, reviewed by staff, and revised by the consultant. That was the elements of natural resources, economic development, energy, natural hazards and climate change. It says revision 2, housing and implementation plan. Those chapters, those elements are available for viewing on the planning department webpage. Additional elements and chapters of the plan that have been received and under review as of the time of that email are open space and recreation, services and facilities, circulation, and land use. And they will, it appears, be having an agenda discussion on August 6th relative to discussing the draft of that plan. I will ask that we take a vote to put into the record his email of July 19th.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Council Vice President Vargas.
Thank you, Council President. I'm sorry, but I want to make sure that I understood you correctly. We're moving this forward to which meeting?
We are not conducting a meeting. I'm referring to the Plan Commission. When I made mention of a meeting, it's not for us. The only thing before us right now is his update and introducing the update into the record.
Thank you. I'll just put it for the record then. I do plan on sending Director Pizzulo an email as a follow-up to the email that we received to him. I didn't see anything about transportation or just public access in terms of in the comprehensive plan. I could be mistaken. I think that's an important part to add to the comprehensive plan. Just public transportation, as we know, it's a huge issue nationally as it is here in the state. And I want to make sure that that gets added on to the comprehensive plan. I didn't see anything on there. So I'll send him an email, and then any response that I get from him, I'll ask the clerk to please share it to everyone. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. All right. Any discussion on the vote to introduce that into the record? Okay, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Haroyan. Councilman Donegan.
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall.
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. The planning director also, just to be clear, there were 2 emails on July 19th, so we'll make sure both are included. Because I'm not sure which ones council members got. If you got one or both, it's unclear. Okay. There's going to be a city plan commission workshop on those draft chapters on July 23rd at 5 PM, according to him. I recommend for everyone, we're in the same boat as everyone else. We need to check the calendar to see if that's in fact going forward. We do not control the meeting. And we are not participating. It's solely the plan commission at this stage. And we as a council are anxiously awaiting that completion so that we can review what their recommendations are and we can vote on an updated comprehensive plan before its expiration. We are being as diligent as we can relative to that. Director Moretti, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I guess not directly related to the report, but it's kind of related to going forward about the comprehensive plan that we believe that there, Director Pizzulo's a couple of head counts down, and it looks as if things are progressing well for staffing purposes to be able to forge ahead with the plan.
Thank you. Does that encourage any other discussion? No? Okay, all right, moving on. Next, we have in the council president communications. We have congratulations and best of luck to our state champions in the Cranston girls softball and Cranston boys baseball leagues. I know I've heard from CLCF, Cranston West softball, that they have some numerous leagues of state titles. Some were competing, I know, as recent as last night, and they did move on. I can't remember which age bracket that was, but they moved on to the next one. They defeated Connecticut in their tournament. And I also understand Cranston East Little League. And a little bit out of order, Councilwoman Renzulli, I don't know if you want to jump in. I noticed you were looking to give similar accolades this evening, which is great.
Thank you, Council President Marino. Yes, I can just expound upon that. It was the 11, 12-year-old girls for Cranston Western Little League that they won their first game in regionals last night, 13-3. The 9 and 10-year-old team is trying to go to Staten Island for their regionals. They have a fundraiser on Wednesday at the Thirsty Beaver if anyone would like to help contribute. Those are for the both girls teams. The boys teams, 11U are the state champions, and they're headed to regionals this weekend in Massachusetts. The 12 and under lost a couple heartbreakers in the state tournament this weekend and were eliminated. And the Cranston Eastern Little League team is going to Pennsylvania. They also have a GoFundMe that you can find online. I encourage anyone who can help these sports teams, these young athletes go forward. It is quite an expense on the family. So I want to congratulate everyone, thank the coaches because they put a lot of time in volunteering, and really congratulate these athletes who are representing all of Cranston on a regional and hopefully national level. Thank you.
Yep. We all get excited for them, that's for sure. Next this evening, we have discussion on the status of construction, infrastructure, roads, sidewalk and utility work, and traffic disruptions on Park Ave and Cranston Street, including the concerns and frustrations expressed by local business owners in that area. Along those lines, what is the projected timeline? What are the stages, types of work completed and to be completed? And what are the efforts being made to reduce the negative impact on nearby businesses and residents? I was presented by business owners with this concern. I'm sure some of us have also heard from our constituents about, traffic and other inconveniences, but there's a real financial impact on the businesses involved. And I'd like to give the opportunity this evening of the administration to give everyone an update as to the inquiry presented this evening. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, we'll break it down into the first question. What is the projected timeline? It was referenced about Park Avenue, which I assume that to be the project, basically from Catanzaro's Pizza, give or take Budlong Road to Reservoir Avenue, and then Cranston Street's mentioned. So I'm sure it's that phase 2 of the Knightsville project. So I'll try to answer both. As to the Park Avenue work, the utility construction work is complete. There may be a day or two left for some asphalt covering over some a concrete base and milling of the roads in that area. When I'm speaking again from Park Avenue, from the Catanzaro Pizza area to Reservoir Avenue. Milling is expected to commence, I think it's next Monday, July 29th. That to continue, and then paving immediate to follow with the target of completion of August 29th for the road paving. So that should be the end. And you're absolutely right, the inconvenience caused as a result of this. Certainly more than empathetic to the owners. Yes, we have received many complaints, including myself, where my teeth fall out to and from work every day. But we're almost there. We probably have another month or so to end that. As to phase two of Knightsville, again, to reiterate what you probably know, the work being conducted from basically Marquette's, I call it the spokes, Marquette's to Central Knightsville near the gazebo, near the park, down to Mr. Anicelli's business, down to just past the park on Phoenix Avenue, over to Randall Street on Cranston Street. So that's the geography. The work is progressing quite well and probably ahead of schedule, but the completion date for the contract is December 1st. There's a good chance it'll be completed before that, but that would be the looking at worst case scenario. And then relating to that, what are the stages, types of work completed and to be completed? Let's keep with Knightsville. Fundamentally, the work is basically sidewalk replacement, construction, curbing, I'll say adjustments, maybe some installation in some cases where it's required for ADA purposes. Period lantern lighting, new trees, thermoplastic crosswalks. There will be street paving, street striping, and also other accessories such as benches. And I'm sure there's more to it. That's the type of work that is being done there. And pretty much just to reiterate, the Park Avenue section, it's the work being done was up to this date has been all utility work. The city hasn't done work there. It has, but in order before you put the streets in, you don't want to dig up the roads right after. So that's why Rhode Island Energy has replaced the gas lines, many of the gas mains and gas lines there. Providence Water, aside from some normal repairs and from infrastructural needs, they have completed many lead pipe replacement services to various business and households. So that was the nature of the work that's being done. As to the efforts being made to reduce the negative impact on nearby businesses, probably a lot, frankly. Relative to both projects, I think we could group those together. That construction disruption was a major impact, has a major impact. It has been a high priority of the mayor and being sensitive to how long this has been going on for and the impact, because obviously the artery of Park Avenue is the main artery, if you will, in the neighborhood artery east to west in the city or west to east. With that, the mayor had directed the police department, economic development to establish continuous dialogue and involvement in notifying the businesses of work being done and to be done, so they could most expect what is happening, even perhaps in the short term, not so pleasing to some, but knowing, but at least trying to keep them up to date in terms of expectation. It became obvious that essential infrastructure had been neglected for short-term fixes prior to the mayor taking office. It's a kind of a Band-Aid approach was taken to various infrastructure as the city, as we all know, such as roads, sidewalks, Budlong pool neglect, drainage, city buildings, and more. The city has been making progress, but it can't can't be done, everything can't all be done overnight, as we know. It costs time and it costs money. With these improvements, unfortunately, comes short-term disruption, but hopefully for the long-term good. To date, all the work on Park Avenue from Budlong to Reservoir has been completed by Rhode Island Energy and Providence Water, as I mentioned, gas line replacements, water projects, lead pipe replacements. This all work needed to be done before the paving. We emphasize that we empathize with all businesses and residents and understand their concerns, and basically what I refer to as construction fatigue. The good news is that we're in the final stretch of all current work slated for completion of that project. As for the businesses, the mayor, you will recall last month, the mayor proposed providing $200,000 in the form of grants for small businesses that would help affect businesses that were affected by the construction. Unfortunately, the council has yet to act on that, as that proposal has been tabled or postponed for further consideration. But again, the mayor still urges the council to pass that to be able to send some relief to these businesses. As for the petition that's included in tonight's docket, for your information, the mayor never received that document. I believe it was dated June 7th. That was odd that the document that was dated June 7th, but it was received by the city council, but not the mayor, even though that quote unquote petition was addressed to the mayor. So for the first time we saw it was actually Friday morning when we saw the docket posted late Thursday. We just found that quite odd. If they were so concerned, we did wish that they would get to us sooner so we could hear them out. It is odd that the business owner that appeared to be the author of the document requested utility work be done to improve their property. And ironically, when the utility improvements were being done, that person complained to City Hall that the work was disrupting their business. But we understand that, and we tried to reduce the impact on that business when they requested their work to be done. After seeing this document for the first time last week, our office staff went out and visited most of the businesses time permitted on that list to determine who propagated the document and to determine the real feelings and sentiments of the petitioners. We found that many businesses had not signed a document, just listed their addresses and business name. We found that employees were signing this petition and not the business owners. And some people were very confused. But we have to say that after our discussions with the business owners, it was mostly revealed that they were supportive of the mayor. However, they were petitioning and they understood the long-term impact was going to benefit them in the long run. But in the short run, it was basically their concern for conducting work at overnight and not during the business hours, which is very understandable. Most people were sincere in their requesting that work to be done. As just for information, as to the utility work, again, which has been the fundamental impact, certainly all of the impact on Park Avenue, Rhode Island Energy and Providence Water do not regularly perform overnight work. It would only be done for emergencies and rare exceptions. So that was the responsibility of energy and water, and we had to work within their schedules. As to the road milling and paving, the city can have some influence on that. And as of now, the milling work is going to be starting at 3 a.m. We're trying to work with the contractor to even start earlier because that 3 a.m. when the work begins will end up going into the morning and possibly early afternoon. But there's a balance between that timing, working with the contractor and then paying incremental costs. So we're trying to just trying to work with it to try to strike the right balance with the contractor. And so basically, as I previously mentioned, that the mayor instructed our economic development director in the Cranston Police Department to keep the business owners informed and to provide the least amount of disruption to their business operations. All safety plans executed are that of the Cranston Police Department. And Major Patalano was here tonight to inform the council what measures that have been taken into consideration to provide business owner feedback and to provide the most efficient the way that they determined to have the least amount of disruption in the city. So the author of it, basically the mastermind behind that, is Major Patalano. He's here to explain it.
I'm gonna just speak on the Park Avenue section from, let's say, Atwood Avenue to Reservoir Avenue, because that's where most of the construction has been. What nobody sees is there's a lot that nobody sees when what goes into this. So we started with the Knightsville project. Rhode Island Energy started with a gas main replacement. Then the utility company came in, the electric company wanted to change out the substation in Knightsville. So when the Knightsville project started, and I give applause to Narragansett Improvement who's doing the work. I don't think I've ever seen stamped concrete of that magnitude installed that quickly and in accommodating the business owners there. So I did see the petition. Several of the business owners did call us from Continental Bait to Catanzaro's to the flower shop, Vermont Florist, to Casale's Liquors. I personally responded out there. I've had Captain Carnival respond out there. I've had numerous supervisors respond out there. I can tell you that in years past, the safety concerns were that they wanted to shut down areas, just shut them right down. We don't allow them to do that. We allow them to keep one lane open. So there's one lane of travel in either direction, north, south, east, west. So someone can be easily accessible, whether it's a business, and we have officers on details where if someone needs to get in a parking lot. Now, I'll back up a little bit. When they're pouring concrete on the aprons around their parking lot, we also asked the Department of Public Works and Justin Matus, and the city did hire a former DOT inspector who was a resident engineer who handled projects that were 10x the size of the ones he's managing. And he understands the need and the inconvenience of many of the businesses in the area. So he's on scene every day. Now, again, the stuff that you don't see is you see that person who was the former inspector at the DOT working with the construction company to make sure that at least there's one driveway open. Well, I'll use Casale's Liquors, for example. You know, he's a very busy store and he demands a lot of traffic in the area. So we made sure we had one entrance or one exit. We used it for either way open for him at all times. Catanzaro's, probably the most affected in the whole city was Catanzaro's. We made sure that he got his people there. Park Avenue was always open one lane. And if it had to be shut, and again, the utility companies need to go across Park Avenue. They can't work on just half the road. They have to bring their pipes across the road, which causes them to open up a trench. When that happens, you have to close the road. We've made them come out with steel plates and put them over half of the road. So when they work on one half, putting the pipe in, when they get it to the middle of the road, move the plate over, people can drive over the steel plate. So what people don't see is there's so much planning, so much involved in this, and there is going to be an inconvenience at some point. And we've tried to minimize that. I think to everybody's advantage, and first and foremost, there was the businesses. We all know the businesses. We all go to these places. We all hear it. I will tell you one thing that I think is important, though, and I know we all want to field the calls from our constituents and talk to the people that own the businesses. But here's what I get. I get a call the next morning and I hear the business owner and they'll say to me, well, I called my council person. You need to call the police department. If they call you, first forward that call to the police department. If they call you at 4 PM, tell them to call the police department. We're 24/7. We can address it right then, right there. And I know they'll call their counselor and then we'll call the police department, but sometimes I don't get the calls right away. It may be delayed. You're busy, we're busy. If you call the dispatch center and tell them, hey, listen, I can't get people in my business right now. There's a cop on detail. We'll address it in a second. We'll go out right then, right there. I'm not saying they can't call you, but let's say that, and I'll give you another example. Now, if they call you and they say, well, I've called the police department 3 times and it hasn't happened, nothing's happened, then sure, you call us. But the first call should be, can I refer you to the police department and call us? We'll address it right then and right there. Now, again, certain issues take precedence. If there's an emergency situation going on, and it's been pretty busy lately, those incidents take priority. But if there's a business owner, I know most of these people on this list. I've dealt with most of them. They did call me and tell me they were signing this petition, and they were kind of hesitant to sign it because some of them said, every time I call you, help us. And, I'm signing this petition. It's kind of against you guys. And I said, listen, this is government. You want to be heard. We'll address it. Everybody needs to get the same message and understand what's going on. But lastly, I'll tell you that aside from accommodating everybody, and when the Knightsville project started, other companies have emergencies. So while they're doing their work, and we have a detour set up, all of a sudden we'll get a call, the gas company has a leak in the area. That leak takes precedence over whatever job you have, a gas leak, because a house could explode if there's an appropriate gas leak that can get in the house. There's people that have a water leak, a water pipe rots out, something happens in the meantime. It disrupts the whole process. But again, we accommodate them and improvise at the time it happens. And most importantly, we've even changed the hours of the work being done. If you notice, we're starting at 4 or 5 in the morning and off the road by 12, 1 o'clock, especially in the Knightsville area. So we do field some calls, but I just ask that if they do call you, to send them right to us immediately and we'll address them. It'll take some work off your plate and it'll help us to address it in a more expedient manner. And if anybody has any questions, I'll answer them for you as far as any specific projects. I will tell you that next week, as Chief of Staff already stated, we've already got a plan in place with the asphalt company and with the Department of Public Works and the private inspector who's monitoring the job. We're starting next week. We're going to start at 3, 4 in the morning and mill Park Avenue. I will tell you that we're going to try to keep some areas open, but there's going to be some detours. When we repaved Park Avenue 14, 15 years ago, we shut Park Ave down. We're not shutting Park Ave down. We're going to do sections of it. Last time we shut it down from Park Ave to Wellington Avenue when we paved that stretch. We're not going to do that. We're not paving that area, but we're going to pave certain sections in 3 parts. From Knightsville, from Cranston Street on Park Avenue to Budlong, that's 1 section. From Budlong at Park Ave to Gansett Ave, the 2nd section. From Gansett at Park to Park at Reservoir is the 3rd section. So we've done that to minimize the impact on the local businesses, but we will make sure that they get their due consideration from their customers. Any questions?
Thank you, Major Catalano. Before I take questions from council members, just want to add, because the petition was presented to me to add to the council meeting for discussion. The one thing that's important to reiterate is that everyone in this room and all the businesses want to minimize the negative impact that the necessary construction is going to have on those businesses. There's no disagreement about that. Can we, 2 things, be aware of it's intimidating for some businesses, and Major Catalano, you were honest about that, about some reaching out, even just to vocalize their concern about implementing this in a better way was difficult for them to do. And I believe, based on some conversations I had with businesses, that's why they were comfortable in reaching out to me and have the council broach this subject. Whether or not the petition went to the mayor first, I don't know. Okay. And what it's reassuring, I'm sure, for those businesses to hear that, there's there shouldn't be any fear for bringing up the request for improved notice relative to the work, perhaps. Like I'll give you an example. Some of the businesses have expressed that they're not notified in advance of the shutdown of their driveways of their business. And I get there's going to be the situation where there's an emergency or whatever. I understand maybe even sometimes the administration or the police department may have reached out to them. Maybe the message didn't get to the business owner. Who knows? I do also know from practical experience of, driving down Park Avenue, of not having notice in advance and not knowing if, for example, Catanzaro's was open or closed. And thinking they were closed and in fact they were open. I think that as a city, and this isn't really for you majors, more for the administration through Public Works, if we can have maybe making an effort with signage to support our businesses, saying that all local businesses are open for business in a very clear way in the areas where there is a blockade. So this way, we're conveying to the businesses, one, we're trying to minimize the impact on you, and two, we're conveying clearly to people who are traveling in that area that our local businesses want your business and are open for business, that the construction is not restricting their ability to conduct their business. And the timeline came up quite a bit with the uncertainty of it. People had referenced the sign on Park Avenue in the area of like Yancet at the light, where it says, I think it's in that area, it says that the construction will be completed by the summer of 2024. And some people wanted, reasonably so, want just some clarification. Does that mean September of 2024? Or they were thinking maybe it would have been done sooner. I don't know. This evening, that was great information to have, that from what I understand, the area in Knightsville, that construction will continue into December, basically on Cranston Street, but Park Avenue, the utility work, Director Moretti, you mentioned, should be done the next 2 days, and then it's just going to be a matter of milling and paving the road. Is that correct or not? Okay, yep. Work done, yep. Yep.
If I can just point out, the only city job is the one in Knightsville right now. The one on Park Avenue that you see from basically Southern Street, east to Reservoir Avenue, that job is done. That is not a city job. That's the utility companies doing that job. They're installing new main. The city doesn't have the ability to go. They're on a state road. It's a state, obviously Park Ave, we all know, is a state road. And the utility company has every right to go in there. Now, what can we do? We are on detail, the police department specifically. We can go out and ask them, which we did in the city project, which is the Knightsville project. We did put up signs. It's a great idea, Council President. And we had those made on the spot that day. We have the ability of the city to make our own signs, and we did put open for business. One specifically was the Vermont florist, and we was certainly sympathetic to all of them, but she was specifically being impacted. So we went out and put a sign up that basically said everybody was open for business. But to do that on jobs such as, everything east of Knightsville is up to the utility company. It's their responsibility to put up detour signs. It's mandated by the DOT. There's safety plans, traffic plans, specific plans. But we can go out and ask them to put up a sign, but they're doing emergency work. They're not going to be able to make a sign. So there's a problem there. And they're, for instance, I was on the way here. They're on at the corner of Phoenix and Atwood, in front of TD Bank. It's all disrupted. It's an emergency gas leak. There's only one officer on detail. They're looking for an additional officer right now. There's no one to go out there. So the jobs that we have control over, we certainly can go out and direct people on what to do, where to move things. But when the utility companies show up and they say we got a leak, there's not much we can do.
No, a couple of things to that point. We create our own signs and we can have them at the ready. The utility company still has to notify the city, DPW, even on an emergency basis before it gets to you, that the city is to have detail and some response there. And when you give the example of TD Bank, that's not the mom and pops that are the ones that are complaining and impacted on this. You know, there's not a grievance of people not being able to get into, you know, TD Bank. It's the grievance, and Major Catalano, I know you've seen it. It's the mom and pop businesses, like you've mentioned, like the florist, the, you know, pizza places, the liquor stores, the pubs, those types of places that, you know, whatever we can do, if we know there's gonna be construction, and it's during the day, I don't see why we can't have those signs up at the ready saying business open, and they can do that. So I hope that we can do that minimal thing. Director Moretti, does that sound reasonable? Yep. Yep. And I know Major Padalano and, you know, your department does a great job when those emergencies come up, getting people there because safety is of concern, and we appreciate that immensely. I think that's more the exception to the rule than the prevalent complaint and issue that we're seeing from people and businesses. We appreciate that.
Unfortunately, you all have to go through a little inconvenience, but when it's done, everybody, it
Everybody's
cures
happy.
once they see the road paving, it cures everything.
Yes, yeah. And to the point of Director Moretti, in terms of the mayor, I believe, was it $150,000 in the resolution for ARPA funds, or the ordinance, 200,000? Okay, yeah. That was continued to the August meeting, because that was, connected to other funding as well. That's up for further discussion, just to be clear what the timetable is on that. But the pending litigation has impacted that funding. That's all that I have. I appreciate that, but now I'll open the floor to council members. I'm sure there's lots of questions. Yep. Councilman Donegan, since a lot of this affects your ward, and then Councilman Paplaskas. Yep.
Thank you, Council President. First, I want to say thank you, Major and Director Moretti. I think the information this evening has been helpful, and certainly will do my best to disseminate the information about the paving, the milling and paving that's going to be going on Park Ave. So excited to hear that. I've, over the past 18 months or so, I've heard personally from several of the businesses on here. And I think that my takeaway was, you know, there is a reasonable expectation that utility work has to be done, infrastructure work has to be done. That's to be expected. I think based on the conversations I've had, what they were hoping for is better communication on when, that they might show up to open said store and the utilities would be outside and they had no idea that this was happening. So better notice or an advance notice for when the work is going to be going on, when they can reasonably expect, okay, you know, they're going to be here this date range. You know, do they want to let patrons know? How are they going to handle that as their business? I just think if the city could do a better job at communicating that in advance, it would give them a better ability to plan and adjust what they're doing. So I hope that can take place.
Let me just say, first of all, thank you for all the years you put in the council. I know you're not coming back, but thank you. But again, maybe I'm not clarifying this. What you're talking about is not the city's responsibility. That is the utility company. If the water company is going to put a main in, they're supposed to go out and hand letters out there. But you're going to be out, have no water service for whatever dates. If the electricity, they same thing. I know for a fact that the electric side goes out and tells people, hey, you're going to have an outage on these hours, these dates. They're changing transformers. They're telling them when they're going to be out. Again, I know they're very sympathetic to the businesses, and the last thing they want to do is upset a business owner, but that's being done. I don't know if there's a specific example you have that you want to give us. We can certainly intervene. We deal with the electric, gas, water all the time. We're willing to help, but at the end of the day, they have to, that's not the city's responsibility to go out there and notify the residents that the electricity is going to be shut off from the electric company when it just doesn't happen that way, unfortunately. And that's governed by the public utilities also, by the way.
If that's the case, and that makes sense, and that was my understanding. If perhaps the city could gently and politely encourage the utility companies to ensure that they're going through those processes, I think that would be beneficial.
We hear you. What happens is the utilities sometimes don't give us much advance notice. The director might get a heads up the day before or the day before that to be able to react, respond with very limited resources is challenging. We hear the message. We will do the best we can with that. And the signs, I could picture two big signs on each end of the construction about businesses open in Cranston.
We have the ability to make those signs, within 2 hours, which is great. We have the machinery, we have the signage, we have the equipment. So that's a great idea.
Oh, Councilman Paplaskas.
Yeah, just want to make a quick comment. I know, my experience through this whole construction going on is more of the Cranston Street, Knightsville end than the Park Avenue end, which also includes work now being done on the bike path, some at night, some during the day. I just want to thank, Major Padalano, you and your department. You've been very consistent at keeping one lane open through Knightsville. I've spoken to business owners. They're happy with that. They understand that there is some inconvenience. I know everybody's getting a little frustrated, but that inspector that's been going out with you guys, looking at the work and making sure that one driveway open has been very effective. And that's the feedback that I've been getting. So I just want to thank you and your detail officers that have been making sure the vehicles are getting into the businesses.
Appreciate that.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Thank you, Council President. Yes, I'm just pretty much just echoing my agreement with my fellow councilors here. Major, thank you. Very informative. I'd say, if I didn't know you were the major, I'd say you were our Public Works Director as well, providing us with a lot of the updates. I appreciate that. I did want to ask I think you said maybe 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, the milling, I guess, of the road, it's Park Ave. Well in advance, is there any way, I don't know how loud that noise is gonna be. There are folks that live obviously right off of Park Ave. Just curious what we're able to do. And 2 is just gonna kind of go down the list and then I kind of let you answer, Major. That's okay. All right, thank you. Second, to the administration, we also have an economic development director of which we have been told in the past that he was going business to business, and I'm wondering if that's something that we could also have and use through those means of communications to inform business owners of what's taken place with the understanding, yes, emergencies happen, we know what, but at the same time, I think it's important as well to share that type of information if we can through the respective council members that represent that area, because that would be another avenue to share that communication, whether it's through a newsletter that somebody has, their council page, any other social media, as well as the city itself. The city has a Facebook page. Not everybody's on Facebook or other ways of social media, but that's just other avenues that we can inform and keep folks abreast as to, hey, there's this last minute in case they hear it, or city councilors, there's this taking place, hoping that you can echo and share out this communication. So I just, that's really more of a comment, but my question going back to the first one, Major, is any impact on the residents at that point that we can possibly share?
So I'll just speak from experience when we've done Reservoir Avenue, Park Avenue, Warwick Avenue, the main arteries throughout the city with DOT. They do them at night. They do them 7 o'clock at night to 7 in the morning. And when that happens, it's disruptive to anybody that lives on any of those main arteries. Fortunately, Park Avenue is very light as far as residential. The areas we're doing, there is some residential. So we kind of like split the baby. We did, okay, let's meet at 3:30, set up the traffic plan, start at 4, try to get done by noon, 1 o'clock. So we kind of split it. To go all night, yeah, it's probably going to be disruptive, not to many people, but to some. And when we did Reservoir Avenue, we did field those calls where people said, listen, I can't sleep. But on the flip side of it, then we would get calls during the day, people saying, oh, I work third shift, I can't sleep during the day. So you try to balance it, you can't make everybody happy, so we kind of blended it to start it at 3, 4 in the morning. We'll try to get it done. Hopefully people will, it'll just cut it in half and try to accommodate everybody halfway. Everybody's gotta meet somewhere in the middle, but to go all night, I think it'll be very disruptive in that area, because you say there's not houses right on the road, but they're right behind those businesses. They're gonna hear just what the people on the road hear. So it is very thick residential beyond those, first few stores. So we're gonna make sure that it starts at 3, 4 in the morning rather than go all throughout the night. And we want to get it done now in the summer, where we also know that people keep their windows open, so we don't want to go through the whole night. So that's why we chose those times.
Thank you, Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you, Madam President. Major Catalano, thank you. I echo what my colleague said. Did a great job explaining. And I know that several businesses in Niceville have called me personally. I'll use Casale's Liquor as an example. They were very impacted by this, their business. And as soon as I called Cranston Police, they had one lane open right away. Something they particularly were doing that all the time. Something occurred where they needed both closed for a moment, which prompted the phone call, and right away it was taken care of. So I think if everyone can call the police first, that's a great idea. If they need to call us, we need to get in touch with them right away and they'll take care of it. Separate from that, to the administration or to legal, more likely, I am curious if it's appropriate perhaps that we can have an ordinance, or we cannot do this because of the Public Utilities Commission, in which we are asking the utility or telling the utilities, when you are doing work here, you need to inform us so that we can inform the businesses. Or can we not make anything by ordinance? We're saying we can ask politely, but if they don't want to do it, they don't have to. And this is not actually a city job, as Major Catalano said. It's up to the utility company. So I'm just curious through legal, if we need to, do we have the avenue to create an ordinance to kind of facilitate any of this, or no, because the state controls all of it? That would be for Mr. Verdecchio.
So they have to require someone, if there's gonna be an outage for electric, gas, water. We do the details with them. We actually walk to the houses when there's a water main break with the guys, because today, in this day and age, people think it's a scam. They don't even trust the utility people coming to the door. So we go with them to the door. Ding dong, they see a police officer. Yeah, it's a real utility worker. There's gonna be no water. You'll have an outage for, by 3 o'clock, you'll have it back on. Or if it's a night job, you'll have it out by the morning, whatever the case may be.
When it's not an emergency, like that kind of emergency, where it's the work now that's happening on Park Ave, it's all utilities we are not required as a city to inform the businesses. We can ask nicely for the utilities to inform the businesses. Is there a way to kind of have some kind of memorandum of understanding in which the utilities need to either work with the businesses or work with us directly to tell the businesses? Is that the thing that's possible, or Public Utilities is just in charge of all of it?
The public utilities governs that, and I can tell you that if they're replacing main, there is no outages. Nobody is without gas, without electricity, or without water. The construction that you see is new pipes, new mains. They always have a gas hookup live to the house. Nobody's without gas, and nobody's without water, and nobody's without electricity. And if they do, they go let them know.
Thank you. And then I think my final question would be, I think to the council president, just in the printout, I don't have the first page, but online, the first page to this letter, I can't tell where the letter came from. I know it came to you, but in order to accept it, I think we have to have a name and an address at least to who wrote the actual letter itself and went around to the businesses. I know for the pool, this has occurred before. We've accepted petitions, but it came from Cranston Forward. We know who that is. I'm just wondering who did this.
I'm glad that you brought that up. As I mentioned earlier, there's a real genuine concern of intimidation and retaliation. And that is why it was brought to my attention. Again, I credit, Major Padalano's honesty and that discussions that he's had with businesses where they have conveyed that concern. I'm not saying that the city would retaliate or be intimidating, but that's why. So Normally you would have people, not have hesitation in putting their name to it, but I understood that. And clearly they're not making this up. We all can see this, it's an impact. And so for that reason, I, again, decided on running with the anonymity out of respect for those businesses. And it's up to them if they want to identify themselves. So I think given the circumstances, I think it's appropriate to accept it the way it is, given the circumstances as a whole. Thanks.
Thank you. I understand. I would ask the legal, is that okay for us? Is it okay for us to accept an anonymous letter? This would be from Mr. Videcchia, I think, into the record. Or are we, because typically, even when you speak, you can't come on here anonymously and write anonymous and not say who you are when you make a public comment. So obviously, I believe all these business names who signed this. I'm just
I can't even understand.
curious of where it came from initially. And we don't accept anonymous comments. We're always,
So is the question, can this be accepted merely because it's,
because it's anonymous, essentially who wrote the letter.
well, that's up to the council.
Okay.
Certainly within your discretion, you can accord it, you can accept it and give it whatever weight you choose to give it. I think it's a question of weight, not
Not whether to accept it.
admissibility, so to speak.
Thank you.
Just want to clarify what I meant by that. So that list, I probably know every business owner on there. I go to all those businesses. They call and we have except for I don't do the nails or the salon, those businesses, but I go to the food places, I go to them all. But we've dealt with all of them. So they're friends, they're community members, they live in the districts. We know them all. So there's no intimidation that I know based on anybody on that list. They just called me like, they didn't want to go against us, like they support us, basically.
I have to say the word intimidating I'm not sure who it's intended towards, but Mr. Paulino knows personally almost every business owner along Park Avenue and in Knightsville. I don't think they're intimidated by him, nor do I think the administration intimidates, if that word intimidation is intended towards the administration. I have personally gone out to a number of these businesses, shaking hands, knowing them. Several people in our office, it was a wonderful experience, getting their honest feedback. So I think there's also a possibility there could be some politics involved in this. I'm not saying it's from the council, but I think there could be politics. I believe, we've been told the author of it is someone where the Democratic Party does sponsor have a lot of activities, and that's the main person behind it, which is perfectly fine. But that might be politically oriented, especially when the word intimidation is being used. I think it should be used very cautiously. Thank you.
Director Moretti, I can tell you from it has nothing to do with politics. It's solely the businesses, and in all candor, the businesses told me that Franklin came into them and they did feel uncomfortable. And I'm being honest. I'm sure that wasn't Franklin's intention, but it is intimidating when you own a business and the city representative comes in and, I'm just conveying what was conveyed to me. It's not political. It's just being honest. And I said, I don't think that was anyone's intention, but that has been the perception, honestly, from some of the businesses. It's great this evening. You've set forth that's not the intention. And hopefully that'll be reassuring to businesses. One, now knowing what the timeline is, and that there will be maybe more signage or things to help encourage their business. But I'm just the messenger. I'm the conduit.
I believe you.
Yep.
So, but yeah, we're being asked that our economic development office visit these businesses to explain what's going on, but we're also hearing he's intimidating the businesses. So I don't know where to strike that balance. And I don't find Mr. Paulino as a very intimidating person or a very strong, opinionated individual. He actually is quite the opposite. He's one of the kindest people you want to know. He has the most mild demeanor I can imagine. So if you're telling us do not send Mr. Paulino up because he's intimidating businesses, But we want to inform, we're trying to inform the businesses, but we're hearing that he's intimidating the businesses. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Let me just say that it doesn't reconcile in my mind. In all fairness to Mr. Paulino, and I'm sure there's, for whatever reason, I totally believe you, Council President, but I'm hearing two things over here. And I need to know one of the requests from the city council, inform or stay away. And that's what I'd like to know.
Yeah, it's not, we're not telling you how to handle it. We're asking for the information. We're trying to give relief to those businesses. So that's your, call in terms of how Franklin conducts himself.
He's only been known to be extremely professional and kind to everyone. And in fact, he's given out many, many grants to those people that he knows along the way.
Okay, moving on, unless anyone else wants to be heard on this. We good? No? Okay. All right, moving on. Next up, we have under council member communications, we have Council Vice President Vargas.
Thank you, Council President. All right, I have two items on here. One of the first items is Sanders Playground upkeep and maintenance, and the second one is the drainage of the Budlong pool. I'll take the first one I'll take the first one first. I did talk to the director, of Park and Recs, Director Cesaglia. He went by Sanders, but I do have just about maybe 2-3 pictures that I just want to bring up if that's okay. Playgrounds here in our city, I honestly have had to really drive around our playgrounds, our recreation spaces, which I want to make sure that we as a city, particularly administration, can really identify a routine maintenance schedule and a checklist. We have Sanders here that has cracks. I know I'll start off with that first one. Yes, Tom. Sorry. Does it naturally just keep going? Okay. So there's a crack on the basketball court there. There's been residents who have reached out to me as well. I believe there was a sealant. The city was going by topping it with sealant. I didn't walk on the basketball court today, whether it was sealed. I did drive by. Tom, if you can go on to the next picture. So that's the other one that shows that there's grass growing out of the basketball court. If we can go on out to the next picture as well, Nick, Tom, sorry. There's graffiti on the Sanders Playground sign on there. I know we have a graffiti, or I think I was told we had a graffiti task force that goes out. I'm hoping that we can take care of the graffiti. I drove by today. Like I said, the graffiti was still on there. The shrub was cut. If you go on to the next picture. But if you go, so in order to walk into the playground, into the basketball court, there's still shrubs that are coming together. Really the point of this is, while I appreciate Director Cesaglia taking care of the shrubs and putting sealant on it, to the administration, I just want to make sure that we really keep a routine maintenance and a schedule and a checklist of our playgrounds. This is over by 3rd Ave, 1st Ave, off of Elmwood Avenue. And so if I could just, to the administration, to the director, just get a sense in terms of what are we doing to make sure that our playgrounds, open spaces are being maintained and being taken care of. I do appreciate Director Cesaglia working with me. I gave him a call and he said he was placing a sealant and they cut the shrubs around the area. But really just making sure that we have identified all of our playground recreation spaces and having a checklist of maintenance. We allocated funding towards a lot of our playgrounds, maybe 15, 17 of them throughout the city and toys, but just really an ongoing of it. That's really that's all I'm really asking for, just making sure we have a checklist and a maintenance of our playground. So, yeah.
Council Vice President, the way the docket's worded, it only concerns Sanders Playground upkeep and maintenance. So I think it would be out of order for the director to talk about, playgrounds citywide in general. I think we have to confine any discussion strictly to what the docket says, which would just be the Sanders Playground.
That is fine. Mr. Radecka, that's perfectly fine. That's not a problem. So again, to the administration, I just want to know then, have we added this to the list of maintenance and checklists going forward?
I see that there's select photos. Obviously, I wasn't here to defend, to defend the accusations, but there's some very nice pictures of the Sanders playground. I think that it's well worth acknowledging also that it's very well maintained in many other respects. As you know, those crack seals, you had direct conversation with right, so they're going to have it sealed. The graffiti, anything can happen at any point in time, you know, like we could just go out right now and something just happened. So sure, there is a normal cycle, and and the director has that on the list. Thank you.
All right, I just think, again, yes, I drove by, shrubs were cut down, appreciate that. The community around that area appreciates that as well. And the cleanup that took place, but the cracks don't happen from one night to the next. So just making sure they're added to a proper routine and maintenance. That's really what the constituents in the community really wants. There shouldn't be a reason why things are, no pun intended, falling through the cracks. And making sure that kids have, you know, accessible playgrounds and basketball courts. It's just something that I've seen it happen throughout areas within the city, at least the areas that I represent, and there's graffiti. So if we can maybe address some of the graffiti and get that removed on the Sanders playground, that's something that the community is also looking to have. So directors, that's something that we're able to send somebody out to get the graffiti taken care of as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The next item, if I may, through the council president, is just the drainage of the Budlong pool. Again, I did reach out to the director as well, just for the record, because we did not have the person's email. It's the reason why I added it on here. It was received through I believe it's through the contact us information page that we have on our website. There was a person, a constituent who reached out in terms of the pool drainage at Budlong Pool. The message pretty much consisted that there's been a lot of water that is sitting stagnant in the Budlong Pool. And so because it hasn't been drained, it's really causing a tremendous amount of mosquitoes, and therefore the folks nearby that are using the recreation spaces around there not really being able to enjoy it because of the overwhelming amount of mosquitoes that are in the infestation within that area, proximity to the pool. I did add that on there, so if the person is watching, just because we didn't have their contact information at all that came through the city, they're well aware of that. When I spoke to the director, he said that they had bought, and director, please feel free to chime in if I'm saying anything incorrectly, but at least this is what the director told me, is that they purchased some mosquito rings to throw in the pool to remove the mosquitoes, but I'm not sure how that operates. So I'm just curious if there is any drainage on there. Are we able to drain that water other than also placing the mosquito repellent, I guess, ring that he said he purchased that has been
can't speak scientifically to what it is, but what I've witnessed, Parks and Rec, I believe it's weekly, will toss in the pool tablets that are insecticides of some fashion to form. I'm assuming, obviously still water can have the formation of insects and mosquitoes, and these are tablets. I believe I've seen them that mitigate or eliminate those. We'll be talking about the pool in a little bit. I don't think we have to worry about too much longer, just so you'll know, but certainly the director has personal interest in that, and he is routinely, and I believe it's weekly, it's a matter of literally tossing those tablets, big tablets into the water.
All right, thank you for giving us that information. I clearly see Council Member Ferry and Councilwoman Heroin, who have a couple of their next item under their council communication. Probably a better segue that I can kind of end it here and maybe go there. But we clearly wouldn't be happy having emails from constituent coming in on, I'm hoping that we get going on the pool and not have to address issues similar as this one come next year. But I'll pause on there, Council President. Good for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, at this time, before I move on to Councilman Ferry's communications, I'd ask for a motion to take the agenda out of order because as soon as I moved on, I realized I forgot to take the vote on the acceptance of the petition from the businesses into the record. So if I can have a motion to take the agenda out of order.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli, stepped out. Councilwoman Horoyan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano, Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Okay. At this time, then, if I would like to entertain a motion to accept the petition from the businesses, the 4 pages, into the record.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan, Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano, Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Okay, now, going back, Councilman Ferry, the floor, and Councilwoman Horoyan, the floor is yours, both.
Okay. We would like the administration to possibly answer some questions, starting out with can you give us an update on the bids for the Budlong pool?
First off, with the Budlong pool, in general being on the docket, let me just let it be known that I don't lie. Ms. Blake or whoever can respectfully disagree or disrespectfully disagree, but I do not lie. I'm tired of being disparaged by Ms. Blake at every council meeting. There's no excuse for that, and she should be sanctioned in some fashion. or
Could we
stopped.
stick to the agenda, please?
It is. It's about the Budlong pool. She was able to disparage me earlier, so I think it's fair that I be able to defend myself, Councilman. Don't roll your eyes.
I'm asking a
gonna-
question.
I'm
Could I have an
gonna
update on the bids of the Budlong pool?
Councilman Ferry, I'm going to interrupt. Director Moretti, please stick to the agenda.
I am
at
sticking
hand.
to it.
And please don't interrupt me. Please stick to the agenda at hand. You made your comments, and Councilman Ferry, let Director Moretti speak and we'll address. it
Council
in
President,
kind.
you
Thank you.
cannot selectively. It's on the agenda, the Budlong pool.
I said you can speak, Director Moretti.
Oh, thank you. So I can finish it. Ms. Blake and everyone here, I was raised by a very good family. Most everyone knows my family, and I haven't disappointed them. And I'm sick and tired of the disrespect that the council allows in this room against me. I'm a public servant. I was not an elected official. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to serve the council. I'm here to serve the people. As to specifically the bid process, the bid was awarded on July 16th at the BOCAP meeting to Vantage Builders.
What was the bid?
The construction award was for $4,247,747.
Okay, could you please give us an update on the replacement schedule for the Budlong pool, demolition and construction? Could we have like a timeline?
Sure. The demolition will be commencing after the city received approval of the archival photos from the approval from the Rhode Island Historical Preservation Commission, which is expected later this week. It's in their hands. It was necessary to hire an outside firm for about $14,000 to archive and document photos of the existing pool. Once that approval is received from the historical commission, then demolition can commence. As to construction, after demolition, obviously, will come construction.
But you can't give us a 30-day period, I mean, a rough estimate.
The award doesn't specify, within the award, the completion date that is required by May 15th of next year. But there's not a timeline yet defined in the bid. So they have the flexibility to get the project done. From discussions with them and everything they've been saying, there is all intentions is to go full steam ahead. But I can't be the one to represent that. But the next step would be having the hazardous materials removed for the and after that, and then the real demo would occur.
Originally, all of the bids exceeded the amount of money we had to spend on the pool. And at the last meeting, you said that we were going to have to do some of the construction work ourselves to get the price within line of what we had to spend. Could you explain to me what we're going to do ourselves? And is that going to add any cost to our Public Works Department?
It would be minimal, dumpsters perhaps. The work that again, once the facility is cleared in terms of hazardous materials, basically asbestos and any lead, what the demo that would need to be done is the pool decking, the removal of windows, removal of doors, and fixtures within the pool house. I think that answers the question.
So how much did that take off the cost of the pool?
Let me just say approximately $350,000.
And we're going to be able to perform that work without increasing expenses to the Public Works Department? No overtime, no extra machinery rented or needed?
Not anticipated or de minimis.
How are we going to do this work? Well, do we have the equipment?
Yes.
We're not going to be renting any equipment or handing out any overtime.
It'll be de minimis. It'll be de minimis if there is. But
What do you mean by
it's a
de minimis?
small amount.
I just have to get it on the record that I'm concerned that it's going to cost more than we allocated to build a pool. That's why I'm asking this question. All right, my next question.
We would not proceed if we felt that.
What about the status of the asbestos survey? Is it complete and what is the expected remediation cost?
Yep, it was completed in February 2024. And the specific cost was included in the contract, the lump sum contract with the architect. So there's not an itemization of that cost.
All right, and the last question is, and you supplied us a summary here, so do we need a motion to enter this into the record?
Yeah.
All right, can we have a motion to enter the Budlong Pool Project financial status that was submitted to us into the record?
So moved.
You can make, you could make the motion. That's fine.
Oh, I can make the motion. I'd second.
It's all right. Yep.
All right,
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano, Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President
Yes.
Marino.
All right, so it says here that we are able to build the pool, do the remediation, and have $110,638 left over. That's your estimate?
There could be change orders involved, so to say to have it left over, I wouldn't use that word to say there's gonna be extra money in the kitty. It may be up to that amount. But between the authorized amount in that, which happens, as you know, there's construction projects that there are change orders, and I would probably say almost any construction project has change orders, whether it be the city of Cranston, the state of Rhode Island, or the federal government. So there is that's the wiggle room, if you want to call that, having to do with should there's anything unexpected that they run into that's outside the contract, that extra space of $111,000 is there. But if it doesn't have to be spent, it won't be spent.
So I don't know if my question is a financial question or a legal question. What happens if we spend more money on the Budlong pool than we allocated to spend on it? Does that jeopardize the grant? And wouldn't we have to approve it as a council to spend more money? So there's a chance it could cost more than this.
There's a chance for anything to cost more. Any project you're getting into, there's always a chance to overspend anything. So yes, there's a risk. There's a risk that has to do with the budget, anything we do in the city of Cranston. If the grant will not be affected if it goes over, but legal can back me up on this. I would presume that the administration would have to come back to the council for approval to expend more funds.
Where would so you'd have to come to us to spend more, to get more money to finish the project?
That project or any other project that goes on in the city of Cranston would come in front of the council.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilman Orion, do you?
I've been out.
Yeah.
As I'm out knocking on doors, people are asking for the time frame, when the construction's gonna start, when we think we'll have the new pool. Will this happen under this administration or under the next administration?
It
What
will be-
happens? We have a change of administration. Where does that leave us here?
It's anticipated that the next administration would honor the contract and want to proceed. If that's the case, whether it be who's ever mayor next year, that the contract would go on unless that administration would want to put a halt to it and whatever penalties may exist. Can't speak about the future, but the contract has May 15th as the completion date. As we mentioned, as to demolition, construction, all that, it's a lump sum contract and it's according to the time frame of the contractor. But at a point, the contractor will be providing an estimated timeline as we move along, but that's premature at this time.
Say completion date of May?
Yes. May 15th, I believe the date is 2025. But I would anticipate, if we get approval next week, again, they have to get I could say process-wise, again, have to get the lead paint and asbestos mitigation in effect, that out of the building. Then next step would be the internal in-house demolition of the elements in the pool house, the fixtures, the windows, the doors, along with the exterior, the pool decking to be removed. So, and then after that, then the contractor will come in. But I can say this, once we get clearance once the hazardous materials are removed, the city will be right on it.
Would it be possible anytime anything is done at the pool to get an updated email to us? Being Ward 2, people are asking me, has there been anything happening this week? Was there any meetings? And I know everything doesn't go through council, some things.
Yeah,
go
we
through
don't want to
Ed.
tie the process down, but certainly any key developments, if that's fair. But say every development, every discussion, I think that's unreasonable, but I think certainly in terms of key revelations or informative information, happy to do that.
I don't think it's unreasonable if city workers are there doing work just to shoot out an email saying, hey, just to know, pool update, somebody's there doing work, this is what's going on this week. I don't
That's right.
think that's unreasonable at all.
No, I don't, but I think perhaps a telephone conversation with the DPW director and the contractor might get a little nitty gritty. I think the charter has it that the administration administers. If the council would like participation in the administration, I think the rules have to be changed. I think it is fair that anything, a key informative information be shared with council members, but to say, I think it's unreasonable if each conversation, if the director comes in my office, we have a discussion, I think that's a bit tedious and over the top.
All right, I think we're gonna have to agree to disagree. I'm not asking for each conversation. I'm asking for updates.
You will be happy, the administration will be happy to provide key updates to the council.
Okay, Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you, Madam President. Director Marty, do I understand correctly that the first phase of work to be done is going to be done by the city? Did I understand that correctly?
First would
The
be,
first phase of work within after getting the asbestos and the lead out, then the city is going to be doing work there, correct?
yeah, that's correct.
So is it fair to say there will be some sort of loose project plan by the city? They will know week to week what their goals are to accomplish between,
Yeah,
I
they're-
don't know, August
yeah,
and October, this is gonna be done. I think if a loose, just my, if a loose project plan is provided, less people will ask questions and then they won't get into the nitty gritty. That's just my opinion.
Mhm.
Or when it comes to under contract, I understand that this was just awarded like 5 days ago. So I don't imagine they have a project plan, but I imagine they will develop a project plan post the city, correct?
Yes.
That's just kind of how projects go. Okay.
Yep.
So at that point, and I don't know if we need to say this here, but similar to like we do with the comprehensive plan where we get some kind of a monthly update from the director. I think that if that's provided, that should probably be enough really for all. I think that's all that anyone's asking. So that's just my opinion. I don't know if I misinterpreted what Councilmember Haroyan said or what you said, but I'm just trying to play the middle person that I don't think you should. I definitely do not think the expectation is to get a daily update from you. I don't want that from you. But a monthly one, I think is probably fair and easier to do, right?
It's probably about monthly would be,
Okay.
probably, I would think that'd be
Okay.
probably the appropriate time frame. If it's less than that, then be happy to provide it sooner.
Yeah, I think that if it's regular, so that it's not 1 week and then 3 weeks and then 4 weeks, that no one will bother the administration, because I know I do respect that part of the charter that we cannot direct the administration how to administer. But if we do ask in advance to get a monthly report, then I think it will keep all people happy.
Yeah,
And we
no-
can tell the constituents, hey, this is the last report I received. I'm gonna get another one on this date. The administration is providing the reports when they said they would, and then everyone will be happy and the administration can administer. Because I want Public Works, obviously, this is adding to their workload. I don't want them sending emails to us telling us what they're doing every day, and I don't think that we can ask for that.
I envision a topical highlight. I
Yeah,
don't want to even use the
monthly.
word report because I think might
Yeah, I
connotate summaries
think
and
it needs
narratives,
to be,
a more bullet point format.
Yeah.
It's in time frame.
I think monthly is probably fair to ask to put on just we meet monthly. So when we monthly get a report on it, that'll probably be either 1 month, it might be more specific or bigger things the next month, but that might make it easier to know what our expectation is, because I sometimes think that our expectations are not necessarily clear, and then we can't expect you to meet them.
Yep,
So
what
I
if-
would say if it's monthly, or we can agree upon that by the shake of a head, that's all that we should ask for. Thank
Again,
you.
happy to have the council disseminate and communicate. In addition, that's, it's welcome.
Thank you.
Any other council members? Council Vice President Vargas.
Thank you. I guess just to be on the safe side as well, I'd say that if we say we want to report every month, I want to make sure that we're communicating, because that report could be like, well, there's only 2 items. And then if we ask additional questions, and we're going to be told, well, we can't ask those questions because it's not part of the agenda. So perhaps really providing some key questions and write them down clearly.
of what our ask is. And if those ask are not the ask for that month, at least it's there so that we can get some some answers to our question. Would probably be something that I would suggest doing on there, to make sure that we are not in violation of any open meeting, things. One last question I do have though, the asbestos survey, that's included in that price, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman Haroyan, Councilman Ferry, are you all set?
I'm all set. Thank you very much, Director.
Thank you for allowing the dialogue.
Moving on to Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you, Madam President. My first item, and we already covered congratulating, the baseball and softball teams moving forward. My second item is a discussion of the statewide low-speed vehicle regulations that went into effect on July 1st, 2024. That is really just to get this in front of people to make sure they're aware that this is a thing. And speaking to Major Padalano, and he left, but I think he did discuss with the administration. The police department for the city of Cranston would currently like to just follow state law, which would allow these vehicles on roads that are 35 miles an hour or less. If everyone, I don't want to read the low speed vehicle law to you, but if everyone wants to look it up just to remain aware on this, these are not golf carts, but they kind of look like golf carts.
Councilwoman Renzulli, I'm going to interrupt for a minute. Ron Steno's having difficulty hearing you. If you need to keep the mask on because of, illness, that's fine. Just if you could slow down the tempo so that he can
Sorry, Ron.
follow. Thank you.
I am not sick. I was just caring for people who are sick, so I can take this off. I was just trying to be respectful to everyone else. Okay. And I'll talk slower too. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of the low speed vehicle regulations and how different cities and towns are creating their own ordinances if there's different roads in the city that they don't feel comfortable with these vehicles driving on. That is part of the state law. It does give the power to municipalities to create those ordinances and do so. Major Padalano has conveyed to me that currently the city of Cranston, the police department would like to just follow state law, which is what most cities and towns are doing at this point. There is only, I believe, 2 that have an ordinance on the books and 2 more that have some in the approval process. So I just kind of wanted to bring this up to put on everyone's radar so they can look up the law, understand what these are. They're not golf carts, but they look like golf carts. They're electric powered. They do have a windshield. They need to be registered with the DMV. Just to kind of put on everyone's radar, because if we start to have issues with people driving these on, Cranston Street, and it's causing a problem and you get phone calls, then we will have to work together and with the police department to create an ordinance to monitor this. So I don't know if anyone has any opinion on this and wants to discuss it or not, but I just wanted to bring it up so that it's on everyone's radar, because people are purchasing these and registering them. And if you don't have an ordinance within your municipality, they are expecting that they can drive them on all of our roads. I personally think it have safety concerns, but if I go with the police department, if they feel right now that this is not a concern to them, then we wait and see, but we might need to discuss this, because we're going to start seeing these on roads, and I don't, want to have an Escalade behind one. It just doesn't seem safe to me. That's just my opinion. If anyone else has anything to say about it? Then next I have the reopening of the Park Theater. I am bringing this forward because we will need to approve or not approve a liquor license for that building. If everyone remembers, that liquor license did lapse. That should be on a safety service docket, I assume, coming soon, because I did attend that press conference and they do have several shows already on the calendar. They are going to be managed by a a pretty well-known company, Spectacle Live, that manages 11 other theaters in the area. So I do anticipate that they will bring in a crowd. It will be managed properly. It's a very well-known company. The operations manager's name is Sarah Shevlin. I don't know who exactly responsibility it is to communicate with her, whether the chair of safety services or the clerk, to make sure that they start submitting calendars, because I know that was an issue in the past. We did not get the calendars of their shows, and then parking or questions. So I just wanted to, again, throw that out there. I know other people maybe couldn't attend the press conference, so I wanted to share that information. Oh, I skipped something. I wanted to have just a discussion also about a possible between the Cranston School Committee and our council. This would be relative to budget changes since the submission. I believe school committee member Anthony Malello, he told me that he did contact Councilman Wall, I think back in May, and that was forwarded to the council president. I'm not sure if this is a legal question or question to the president of how we make that meeting happen, but I think constituents have been very active on social media and in email calling with different questions that do pertain to services that may or may not be taken away concerning busing and middle school sports busing and just hubs. And that does concern the budget. So I know in the past, I don't know how many years ago, there were mandatory meetings that were joint meetings between the council and the school committee. It is no longer mandatory, but it has been asked for by a member of the school committee. And I just want to show my support for having one of those meetings, because if we on the council can understand the changes that need to occur in the school budget, or if we can have an open conversation of what those changes are based on constituents that are coming to us too, not realizing that we don't actually have control over how the school changes their budget. We allot a certain amount of money, and then if it's not enough, they disperse it how they need to. We have two former school committee members right here, so they know, and maybe they can speak to this. But I personally think that's a high value meeting for us to have, for our constituents to see that we are working together and that there are some things this council does not control. So I'm just throwing that out there, and I guess asking the council president for opinion, or who needs to call this meeting. I don't know exactly the process, because since I've been on the council, we have not had one.
Yep, I spoke directly to the school committee president on more than one occasion, as recent as within the last 72 hours, as a matter of fact, and one previously when this question came up before. And the school committee president said that no, that joint session would not be beneficial, and that he was not the one that was looking to have it. I can say from my perspective, I don't see the benefit in that, particularly at this time. In the future, definitely open to it, and if it would be beneficial, I think that's a good thing to do. Right now, as has been communicated, as we all know as members of the council, our budget, we pass it, we approve it, we allocate the money to the school department, and then we have absolutely no role, no authority whatsoever to dictate to the schools how they spend their money as part of their operating budget. So it would be giving a false impression to the public that we somehow are going to dictate to the schools what they're going to do with their money. And this is not a new process for them. But I'm open to Councilman Wall, his thought, and I will add one tail piece to that too. The other aspect of it is, if there is, and I'm not saying there is, but if there is the thought of, well, we can discuss the capital improvements, right, okay, but just for the public to know, we couldn't have discussion of the ARPA funding issues that are currently in litigation too. But even the bus depot stuff, we don't have direct control, but I defer Councilman Wall if you have something you want to say.
Sure. I mean, as chairman for a number of years, I can remember, I believe, one occasion where we had a joint meeting, but it wasn't about funding, because as the council president puts out, rightfully so, once you allocate your funds to the school committee, they, as you said before, that's their decision on how to use those funds. But I believe, and I don't, why am I, it had to do with buildings. I believe it had to do with a big building project. That's what I thought for some reason. It was in the beginning of the process. But other than that, no. And I have also spoken with Chairman Trafficani, and at this time, he was not interested in that meeting as well. So.
Councilwoman Renzulli, then Councilman Paplaskas.
So the process, no matter what we're discussing, I just want to know personally and maybe for the public, would it be the chairman of the school committee needs to tell the council president, I would like to have a joint meeting, and those two leaders need to agree to have a joint meeting? Is that how I just want to understand. So if, Chairman Trafficante says in 2 weeks, I see value in having a meeting, I would like to have one. That's his role to have, not any other member to bring forward. I just want to understand the process as the conversation has come to me, because I have heard differently, and that's why I put it on here. If I was under the understanding that we could not do this, I would not bother to speak about it.
I'm not on the school committee, and I'm not being facetious. I don't pretend to know what their rules are for them to conduct a meeting and call a meeting. But just
As a joint meeting, it's whose meeting is it? It's joint. It's both of our meetings. So does that become maybe a solicitor knows, does that become a special meeting in which 3 members can call the meeting, and that means, the 3 of us can call it and invite them? I don't know what who holds that rule, because it's a meeting between 2 different bodies.
In my entire legal career, I have never heard of such a thing, of a school committee and a council meeting holding a joint meeting. I could be wrong. Legally, I have no idea how that could even be done legally. How do you post an agenda? How do you take votes? Maybe Attorney Angel or Solicitor Malay will disagree. I don't see how it can be done legally or logistically or procedurally.
Okay.
I just don't see how it can be done.
That's why I'm asking, essentially, because I was told that it happened in the past, maybe not when, and Councilman Wall did just say he was the chairman of the committee, and it did happen. And so it probably happened prior to that. So I will just research how it happened. I just wanted to bring it up as a topic because it was brought up to me, and also constituents have brought up to me, and which I did explain to them, we have no control over it. And they said, but can you talk to them? Can you have a discussion? And I'm pretty sure we can have discussions without exhibiting pretending that we control what they do. But I think they do value maybe our opinions, because we share the same constituents. And if, they don't value the opinions, they don't have to take the opinions. But I think for our constituents are under the understanding that there are constituents, and they're also the school committee's constituents. Or should we just, as a body, be telling people, sorry, we have nothing to do with this. I can't help you call your school committee member. Because I personally don't like doing that. But if that's something if we have zero, I thought we were like, 2 different teams that might work together to accomplish something, because Cranston Schools is a part of the city of Cranston, even though we don't literally control them. So just a thing that's come up from my constituents. So I'm sure it's come up to everybody. They have problems with the schools. They still come to their council people. So we need to have an effective relationship with that committee. And I think we need to show that to the public, that we do have that relationship. There's got to be a way to do it where we're not pretending like we're telling them what to do.
I can tell you what I do when and plus I'm a parent of children in the Cranston Public Schools. I tell those constituents to reach out to their school committee person and who they are. That's the process. I don't want to give a false sense of confidence or assurance to constituents that I'm somehow going to influence what the school committee decides to do with their money, because I'm not. And you can have a conversation with the school committee person, convey what's being relayed to you by the constituents, which I've done that as well. But Councilwoman Haroyan, then Councilman Paplaskas. Yep.
I think school committee has a very good relationship with most of the council people. School committee has always invited the council to come on budget night so they can see the questions asked and answered. school committee, Anthony Mello, did approach me about this some time ago. He was just thinking it would be nicer if we were all in one room to ask the same questions to get the answers. But I think the problem with that is we both have two different financial people that may not be on the same page. I don't think it's a bad relationship. And I think we all work as a team. Many of us council people are very active in the school department.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I know, it's been a long night. Dan, Chairman, Councilman, former Chairman, Walk, and I keep looking at each other because we had a discussion probably about 3 years ago. We were gonna call a joint meeting of the two bodies, let's talk about Gladstone, I think the discussion was about. I don't, we haven't never had that meeting. The term ended, but we had discussed about possibly doing it. And just logistically, I think it would have to be done like we do with the Joint Planning Commission meeting. Handled that same exact way. The two chairs would ask their bodies if they have questions and then move on, but you know, I don't remember us ever having one before. Maybe we did, but I remember we talked about it. That's all I got. Thanks.
Councilman Wall.
Not to take a ride down memory lane, but now as I'm starting, because it happens so infrequently. It has happened in the past. I don't know what the parameters were. And I'm going to tell you, you and I did talk about it as you were council president. I was chair at that time, and it never did happen. And I thought that was basically the way we were going to go about it. The school committee chairman calls a meeting. That's pretty much, and you would call your
council would call a meeting.
However, the meeting that we attended, I think we were both there, and Mr. Donegan Councilman Donegan just mentioned, I wasn't chair then. And I don't think you were council president when I think it was Mr. Council President Farina at that time. So it happened. So I can't really honestly say I have called one.
So just to sum it up, I know that these joint meetings do happen in other cities and they happen in Coventry. So maybe when Attorney Angel is here, he can answer that question, and I will personally do some research to see how they do it. I know that there is a established procedure on how to have joint meetings. As Councilman Paplaskas just said, we do have joint meetings with planning. We take different roles, we take different votes. They happen, they can happen. So if the chairman wants it to happen, then I'll speak to him on it. I just wanted the opportunity to bring this forward. I don't think that we don't influence, the planning commission making their votes any more than we influence the school committee making their vote. So I just think that it would be a good practice. Probably won't be here when it happens, but I hope that somebody eventually everyone meets together and shows that we are one city trying to accomplish one thing. It's not about who's telling who to do what with their money. It's just that we show a united front that we're trying to give our constituents the best service and let them be heard on both fronts, because I can call a school committee member and say, hey, I got this call, but we're not always on the same page. We don't go to each other's meetings all the time. I go to school committee meetings. That doesn't mean I can't participate in the meeting other than speaking at public comment. We can't converse back and forth like we can. And perhaps a meeting like that would have some value. So I thank you all for allowing me to bring this forward. And I will bring further information on how they do it other places in case anyone decides they want to do this in the future. Thank you.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Thank you, Madam President. Got two other items. I'll be very brief. First, I just want to, send congratulations to St. Mary's Feast Society and Ladies Auxiliary and the entire St. Mary's Parish on celebrating their 119th annual feast. Hundreds or thousands of hours of volunteer work goes into it for members of the society and the parish. I know they worked very, very hard to have a successful feast. I just want to give them congratulations. They earned it. They worked hard, and best of luck next year on the 120th feast. I also like to say I had the opportunity to attend the Cranston Athletic Hall of Fame a few weeks ago. A lot of storied history there inducted. It was a wonderful ceremony. Congratulations to all the inductees. I'd also like to give a congratulations to our colleague, Councilwoman Renzulli, for her contributions to cross-country and track. She was also inducted into the Cranston Athletic Hall of Fame. So congrats, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
Madam President, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we are moving on to introduction of new business. Before we do our normal procedure that we typically do relative to this, given the public comment that was heard early today, I want to address something, and then I've got to address something with one of the ordinances also with the solicitor. But this is new business, meaning procedurally what happens is that these are new to the council. There are matters introduced, whether by council members or whatever, whoever they happen to come from, the mayor or council members. And that means that it's that exactly that new business. We as a council have not had any vote or any discussion on these matters and won't until it goes to committee. And again, for clarity's purposes, the ordinance that was discussed this evening with respect to encampments and homelessness, that is the mayor's ordinance. That is not my ordinance as the council president. There was some mention because my name is on it. That's standard on every single item of new business. It just mentions that at the top of the page. But if you go to the bottom, it says sponsored by, and that will tell you who the sponsor is. And so just to be clear, it is not me. So I am not endorsing it, I'm not sponsoring it, and I will have my opportunity to have my discussion when that meeting occurs. With respect to that specific ordinance, though, I did need to mention that the clerk over the last 24 or 48-hour business days since it was submitted by the solicitor to the clerk, the clerk had noted that there were some errors and addressed that with some communications to Solicitor Millet relative to those errors. Some are typos, some are the title and chapter. I'm not the solicitor, nor is the clerk. Solicitor Millet had responded to the clerk that it was okay to still refer it as new business. Solicitor Verdecchia, if you want to just give your 2 cents on that issue.
Yeah, I just at 9 o'clock was made aware of this, and I just reviewed the emails, and Solicitor Millet is, as we all know, the head legal authority in the city of Cranston. He's given his opinion. I happen to agree with it. That's it.
Okay, so if the solicitor says it's okay to refer despite the errors, then that's what we do. At this time, I'll take a motion to take all the new business as a block.
Council President, if I may, just a quick question, just so that I know that right next to all of the new business, the format has always been that we vote as a block to refer them. Can we vote on these individually?
Sure.
To move them over and refer into committee?
Yeah.
All right, if I
absolutely.
may, that I'd like to do
Absolutely.
that. Thank
Yep.
you.
Solicitor, we can in fact do that, correct?
Absolutely. You can
Okay.
take them item by item.
Okay, and if we are so compelled, we could not refer a matter for new business without penalty? Do you want to take a pause on that?
Thank you. That's exactly my.
Yeah.
Just, I was reviewing the charter, all ordinances are introduced at a special or regular meeting. It does say that. And then referred out to the appropriate committee. I'll take another look at that. I think they have to be referred to the committee. If they don't make it out of committee, I think that's the purpose of referring them to the committee. I think it would violate the charter if a vote was taken not to refer a proposed ordinance to the appropriate committee. I think that would be circumventing the process. That's what the committee is for. If there's a feeling that it's a bad ordinance or it's inappropriate, that's hashed out in committee. It won't come out of committee. But I think to do it at this juncture, I think is problematic, in my opinion.
Councilman Donegan?
Council President, I'll just say that and I think most of you will not be surprised. I strongly disagree with the ordinance. But I do feel that it should go to committee. As a matter of precedent, I don't think there's ever been anything that, since I've been on the council, that hasn't gone to committee. And you can guess how I'll probably vote on it in committee, but I think it should go there nonetheless.
And Madam President, just another thought on that. If, and I'm not trying to read someone's mind here as to what may or may not happen, but I mean, there was an opportunity for some public comment in the beginning because it is a docketed item, but obviously the purpose of going to committee is to fully advertise it and to give both sides an opportunity to be heard. And I think that's an additional reason why I think it would violate the spirit and intent of the charter by not sending this to the appropriate committee.
I appreciate that, Solicitor. I appreciate Council Vice President Vargas, the option. I think some of us were mulling that over too, but it hasn't been done previously, and it's better to err on the side of being safe. Yep. Okay. So with that being the case, I think it'd be best if we entertain a motion to take the new business matters as a block.
So moved.
Second.
And
Is there any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll to take them as a block.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
yes,
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Motion to approve the block.
Second.
Okay, motion to move the block. Yep, for the scheduled meetings. Yep, okay. And second. Any discussion? Clerk, please take the roll.
Sorry, I just wanted for the,
Oh,
I just want to be,
Sure.
no, it's a president, again, a vote to yes, to move this forward as a block, with the hesitation of one specific ordinance, but we'll discuss that at the committee that it's being referred to.
And actually, I'm gonna pause before, clerk, before you take the roll for Councilwoman Renzulli. I just have a question as to the dates. Okay, I was speaking to the clerk because due to some scheduling issues, we wanted to make note that the August 5th Finance meeting, Safety Services and Claims Committee meetings are all being moved to August 15th. So even though this says that they're being referred to August 5th, the date is being scheduled for the 15th instead of the 5th. That'll be a change. So just so we're clear, okay? All right, with that being said, is there any discussion on that? Councilwoman Renzulli?
Thank you. I don't know if I should have said this before when Council Vice President was speaking, but I would have to agree with Councilman Donegan that not moving these things forward, even if individually we don't particularly like something, we haven't been able to discuss it. So even though the public came forward when something is egregious and we don't get to talk about it, then you don't know who thinks so. And you might be surprised who thinks so. So I think that we should be able to talk about it and then not vote it out of committee if we don't want it to move forward. But if it never makes it to committee, then we set this precedent of anything we put forward that someone just doesn't like on its face, we don't bring it forward. And that's, not how democracy should work. So I just wanted to put that out there as we vote this block forward. Thank you.
Okay. I'm, I'm gonna ask for withdrawal of the motion the second, just so we're clear because the change of date, okay? Is that okay? So, was it Rob?
Withdraw
Thank
my
you.
motion.
Okay, all right. So I'm seeking a motion to move all of the new business matters as a block to their respective committees with the ones that are noted for August 5th being the resolution and claims. Those are now being referred to finance and claims on August 15th.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, there being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hawarian. Councilman Donegan.
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall.
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Informational only is that from the chairman of the Library Board of Trustees, Larry Warner, who had served, no longer wishes to be reappointed. We thank him for his service, and that is just a note for informational purposes. That's it on our end. And
Motion to adjourn?
no,
Second.
okay, no, I'm gonna
Oh, I'm sorry.
table that for, can you withdraw that, Council?
I would like to
I
ask
withdraw.
to speak on point of personal privilege. I'd like to
Okay.
say something.
Okay.
I would just like it to be on the record that I was recused from a vote earlier tonight.
Okay.
There's some questions about why I didn't vote on an item, and I was recused.
Okay, it's important that you state it for the record, Solicitor Videcchia. Just, we're almost through. Go ahead, Councilman Horain.
I would just like it on the record that I was recused from a vote earlier today. I had recused at the beginning of that, and the one recusal stays through to the end.
What do you mean stays through the end?
Told that I would be recused from the entire vote until the subject, the matter kept coming up. I didn't need to do a new form each time.
I mean, you've made it clear that you recused. You recused at the committee hearing, correct? You recused at the beginning of this meeting, so I think you're covered. I mean, if you just want to be absolutely remove all doubt, you can always submit the form.
Thank you, Solicitor Videcchia, for coming back for that. Appreciate that. All right, that is all then. Now,
Motion to adjourn?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, no, anyone opposed? No, good evening.